Bienvenido, and welcome to another episode of me talking about things that I don't really understand. Here we go. On today's episode, we'll be...
Hello?
I'm sorry, who are you?
I'm Québécois, French-Canadian, if you will.
French-Canadian? How come you don't have an accent when you speak English?
Bah oui, je suis Québécois, je suis parfaitement bilingue.
I'm sorry, was that French?
Bon, ouais.
That didn't sound like French, it sounded weird.
Bon, peut-être c'est les Français qui sonnent bizarre.
Oh. Well, you know what? Today we're talking about le Québécois, or French-Canadian. And let me just start off by saying that even though we French people from France love to make fun of our friends across the sea, I love Quebec, especially the people. I mean, it's a sexy French-speaking region with Canadian-style hospitality and kindness. What's not to love? And don't get me wrong, of course the French people from France can also be kind. It's just, I've never heard of anyone going to France for the people, you know? It's not really what we're known for. Now, just because the people from Quebec are great, that doesn't mean that French-Canadian doesn't sometimes get a little bit confusing. I mean, hey, it is a variant of French, so I don't know what you were expecting. I mean, the name Quebec alone has the word for what in Spanish and French. I mean, I don't know what we were expecting from a language that can literally be translated into what be what. Can't help but feel they did that on purpose. So the big question here is, what really is Québécois, and how does it differ from the French widely spoken in France? The most obvious difference is actually just the accent. Québécois is said to be a lot more sing-songy than Metropolitan French. Think of Québécois as the equivalent of the Southern accent for Americans.
Le V, c'est comme une boîte de chocolat. On ne sait jamais sur quoi on va tomber.
French Canadians often opt for the informal, friendly version of you, tu, even among strangers, as opposed to Metropolitan French, which generally uses the formal version of you, vous, in professional and unfamiliar settings. There are some vocabulary differences as well between the two French. For example, in French Canadian, we say un char, whereas in Metropolitan France, we say une voiture. It's important to note that in France, un char either means a chariot or a tank, not a car. Une blonde in Quebec refers to a girl or girlfriend. Yes, une blonde, as in blonde. And no, it does not matter what color her hair is, she will always be a blonde. I don't know. And finally, des gosses in France means kids, whereas in Quebec, it means testicles. I can't see that ever being an issue.
Hey, bud, you okay?
Oh, hey, yeah, my tank broke down.
Your what?
Yeah, my tank. I was getting ready to go down to New York with my blonde.
That doesn't sound practical. Wait, you're blonde?
My girlfriend.
Did you and Jane break up?
What? No,
Oh, she dyed her hair. I'm so stupid.
What?
Listen, man, that sounds super fun. You know, I've been trying for the longest time to plan a trip for me and my testicles. No wife, just, me and my two little testicles. Yeah.
Anyways, as I was saying, because French is a minority language in Canada, they take preserving it very serious. And they've taken certain steps to try to offset the influence of the heavily anglicized environment. For example, stop signs in Quebec actually say arrêt instead of stop like most francophone countries. They also try to avoid importing English words, which just leads to American sentences being literally translated into French. These are called loan translations, which aren't really used in France at all. For example, in France, we'll actually say faire du shopping, which we've taken from English. But the French Canadians said, hold up, if they can turn the word shop into a verb, we're gonna do the same thing. So they took the French word for shop, magasin, and turned it into a verb, which gave us magasiner, which again is not used at all in France. The same is true for weekend, a word that is used very much in France, but Quebec decided to just translate it literally and started saying fin de semaine, which translates into end of week. Now, as much as the Québécois try to offset this influence, Anglicisms are bound to happen. But weirdly, not at all the same ones as in France. For example, in Quebec, they'll say things like caché, hangover, or even Frenché, which again are not things that you will hear in France, like ever. It does not exist. And you just have to wonder who chose which Anglicisms were going to be used for each language.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for coming out. Metropolitan French, Canadian French. It's nice to see you.
Hello.
Today, we're going to be bidding on which English words we want for our languages, starting off with joke. Anybody for joke?
Me.
Sold to French Canadian. How about fast food? Who wants fast food?
Ooh, I'll take fast food. Restauration rapide just doesn't have the same ring to it, you know? Speaking of proximity, I guess you'll be wondering how the heck French made its way from all the way over there to all the way over here. I guess it's time to tell a little tale. Once upon a time, or in the 16th century if you want to be precise, the French had a grand idea to expand their Frenchness to the New World. The biggest and bravest of French explorers was summoned, Jacques Cartier. Yes, like the bracelets. Packed his berets and baguettes and sailed across the sea. Time to discover where his new maison would be. He passed mountains and forests and lakes, and beavers and mooses and bears. Nothing he could expect. Until he made his way to the strangest of lands, Quebec. Jacques and all his friends found a new home. They built impressive fortresses, created stylish outfits, and said excusez-moi to the local wildlife. But then it started to get cold. Winters in Canada crept in, colder than a polar bear's freezer. And so, while the French were debating whether to say il fait froid or il fait très froid, arriving fashionably late, someone arrived at their gate. The English. Oh no. The English took over the land, but the French speakers, they took a stand. Their language, they said, had to stay, and the English said, okay. Now wrapped in this tale of beavers and berets, the Frenchness stood firm against the English's ways. And here ends our story, a linguistic ballet, where in Quebec, French has forever held sway. I think it's beautiful how passionate French Canadians are about protecting their own language. Truly, I mean, their language and culture is so important to them that they've actually instated real laws to protect them. And obviously, we're gonna take a look at some of the more interesting ones. Radio stations have a quota of French songs to play, and TV commercials have a quota of French programs to broadcast. There are regulatory bodies such as the Canadian Radio, Television, and Telecommunications Commissions, whoa, that's a mouthful, in place to ensure this. Bill 101 is a Québécois law that mandates that commercial signs, posters, and advertising must be in French. If a business has a non-French name, it must include a French descriptor or slogan such as Câlisse adding l'épicerie au bon marché, KFC adding la villa de poulet. This bill also relates to movie titles. In Quebec, all movie titles must be translated into French. Now, sometimes there isn't a clear translation, which can lead to awkward and uninspired new titles. For example, Fast and Furious, which in France wasn't translated and was left untouched, was translated in Quebec to rapide et dangereux. Rapide et dangereux means fast and dangerous. And that just sounds cornier for some reason. Fast and dangerous? Well, I'm fast and dangerous. I mean, Fast and Furious isn't much better, but you get what I'm saying. Pulp Fiction is another movie title which was left untouched in France, but was literally translated in Quebec to Fiction pulpeuse. And if you thought Pulp Fiction was a weird title, Fiction pulpeuse doesn't mean anything. It literally doesn't mean anything. It's literal translations of the two words, but it doesn't actually mean what it means in English. And if you don't know what Pulp Fiction means, I didn't know what it meant before I started shooting this video. Legally Blonde was changed to Blonde Illégale, which I guess in Quebec means girlfriend and legal. Girl and legal, right? That sounds weird either way. But you know what? I actually prefer this version of the French one, which is La Revanche d'une Blonde, a blonde's revenge. Have they seen the movie? I mean, Legally Blonde just doesn't scream revenge to me for some reason. But anyways, moving on. There's also Bill 96, which requires all businesses to be able to serve any and all customers in French before deferring to English. Quebec has a language police. Kind of. The Office québécois de la langue française is often referred to as the language police, and they're responsible for enforcing language laws in Quebec. Now, it would be a crime to talk about the Québécois and the Quebec region and not mention their food. Now, of course, Quebec's culinary traditions have a direct connection to its French roots. The early French settlers brought with them rich culinary heritage, including techniques, recipes, and a love for fine dining. French Canadians started by adopting these techniques, but due to a difference in local produce and harsher seasons, their ingredients obviously differed from what's available in France. This resulted in French Canadians coming up with their very own unique dishes, like tourtière, a staple dish during the holiday season. It's a meat pie often made with pork, veal, and potatoes, comforting and warm. Pudding chômeur, translating into unemployed man's pudding. It's a dessert made with simple cake batter and a rich, delicious sweet sauce made of maple syrup. And last but not least, we have poutine. Poutine is a quintessential Quebec dish. Try saying that 3 times fast. Poutine essentially just consists of French fries, smothered gravy, and big old cheese curds. It has become a symbol of Quebec cuisine and has variations with added toppings. And don't get me wrong, it's delicious. I mean, it's so good, but you just have to wonder how that became the national dish. Oh, hello, welcome to Canada's National Dish Contest. I'm pretty hungover, so let's just get this over with, all right? What do you got? What do you got? Yes, so we have a foie gras for you. It's essentially just a goose that we've overfed to death, and then— Wow, that's disgusting. Would you want me to puke? Next. We have some snails. What am I, cat? What are you feeding me snails for? Next. What, who, me? Yes, you. What, are you drunk? What, me? No. Why would I endanger the sanctity of our national dish by showing I'm drunk? I would never do that. Yeah, shut up and show me what the food is. Okay, here you go. I basically put all the things that I would want to eat into one dish and made this. Oh my God. That is genius. Okay, that is exactly what I needed right now.
I call it poutine because it makes you want to put it in your mouth.
Brilliant! We have a winner!
This is a contest?
So, what do we think? Has Québécois thoroughly confused you, or are you just used to it because, let's face it, it is the French language? Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, au revoir!